The next 10 minutes will hopefully make your Pokemon investing journey a heap easier. I think over the years, I've discovered four main themes that really make things move north in price. 24 years now, I've been collecting, buying, selling, keeping, opening, putting in binders, trading cards. I've hopefully amassed some sort of experience. It's been a massive hobby for me over the years. Buying, selling, trading, collecting, you name it, I've done it. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, even things like Harry Potter or our local footy trading cards, NBA cards, you name it. But anyway, focus on to Pokemon. I think Pokemon's unique in one main way. When you compare it to a lot of other TCGs, there's a higher percentage base in Pokemon that focus on the collecting side. There's obviously a huge player base, but proportionally, there seems to be more collectors or even / investors now than what there are player base. So across this journey, I think I've discovered four main secrets to making money. The first one is demand outweighs supply.
I'm not getting in that. No fucking way, dude. I am not doing that. Holy shit.
I think with Pokemon, if you look at the launch of a set, particularly a modern set, there's always been, in one that rises rapidly, there's always been huge demand at launch. So demand's outweighed supply. I've been in sales now for, a long time, but we talk about the popularity of something new. Like I sell cars, and quite often a new model will come out and it's a really nice new model, and it might come out in limited numbers where more people want to buy it than they can get hold of. Now, typically that on the secondhand market will be worth a touch more because you can't get it new. And but typically also with cars is they depreciate in value over time because they get used and worn out. The opposite applies to obviously something like Pokemon cards. What will happen is supply will dwindle, and if demand still remains strong, you've got something that starts becoming a little bit rare, as in you're one of the last people, I shouldn't say last people, but could get to that stage. I mean, look at a first edition base booster box. You could be one of the last people on the planet with one of those. But what I'm getting at is supply will dwindle, and if demand still remains relatively strong for it, then price is only going to go up. Now, there's an interesting point with this supply and demand, because at launch, demand could be really strong. Like look at Pokemon 151, the all-new set. There's rumours of it, or not even rumours, there's stories of it just selling out before you can even get an order in. Celebrations UPC, selling out before you can get it. Bots buying them up. Scalpers buying them up and reselling them on the secondary market for more than what they're worth. Now, that's interesting, but it doesn't always mean that that set's going to rise drastically north. I remember back to going into my local supermarket when I was about 19 years old or 18 years old, and you could buy an EX Dragon booster box or an EX Crystal Guardians booster box. Booster pack. And they were $4.95. They're on the shelf. They're overstocked. They were marked down to clear. You could go into the local Kmart and get a 3-pack blister of something like Dragon Frontiers, and with a beautiful promo inside it, and it was slashed to clear at $16.95. So with supply demand, obviously that set back then, a lot of the EX sets didn't have huge demand at launch, but look at them now. They've gone so far north in price. So I think when it comes to supply demand on modern, I think it's a pretty safe bet if it's got huge demand at launch, it should go up in price, but then there's a second layer to the supply demand. If you look back to those EX sets, yes, they didn't have huge demand at launch, but supply dwindled quickly. So that's another important caveat that you need to think about is look at Shining Fates. That had big demand at launch, but it's still sitting on shelves in some cases on special 2 years or 2.5 years later. So unless supply starts to dwindle rapidly, it's not going to go up in price. So my point is, demand is really important, but not if a set is massively overprinted or printed into the ground. So what you've got to look at is just that. Demand has got to outweigh supply. Supply's got to dwindle and demand's got to remain strong for the set to be moving north. The second main tip that I figured out is the sets over time that are worth big dollars always have strong pulls and strong hits worth big dollars.
And nice! Yes! We got it! We got the Espeon.
Oh, yo, what? Stanley with the, oh my God.
And you can look back to all the strongest or all the eras and look at the strongest sets. So let's rewind back. Sword and Shield, Evolving Skies. If you ask anyone, what's the strongest set from Sword and Shield? 99 out of 100 people would tell you Evolving Skies. And there's one big outlier. Look at the hits. Evolutions, the Umbreon VMAX, the Rayquaza VMAX, even down to cards like the Noivern V, the Dragonite V. So it's got some strong hits worth big dollars. And let's work our way back. So Sun and Moon era. Best set? Probably Team Up. Why? Look at the hits. That Latias Alt Art is a stunning card. The Gengar Mimikyu is a stunning card. Second best set, Cosmic Eclipse. Look at the hits inside it. Rewinding back to XY era, what's the best hit? And I shouldn't talk badly of XY era, but it was not my favourite era. I didn't go much on the secret rares. I didn't go much on the artwork for the mega cards with obviously all the Japanese text. It was just a bit much going on. When you pulled one, you weren't like, oh, that is a nice looking card. Anyway, the best set from there is XY Flash Fire. Why? Look at the hits. There's a bunch of cool, expensive Charizard cards you can pull. Next step back, Black and White era. Best one, Plasma Storm. Why? Because there's two ripper secret rares in the Blastoise and the Charizard. Rewinding all the way back even to the EX era, obviously things like EX Team Rocket Returns that has some super low pop, cool Gen 3? Yeah, Gen 3. Torchic, Mudkip, Trico, yep. Gen 3 starters in Gold Stars. It has some awesome, like Mewtwo EX. Rocket's Mewtwo EX. It's just got Rocket Snorlax EX. It's got some beautiful looking artworks with the pulls worth big dollars. So point number 2 or tip number 2 is if a set comes out with strong pulls, it's going to mean good things in the long run. The third tip I've figured out along the journey is that a good investable Pokemon set has strong Pokemon to pull. Or, another word, fan favorite Pokemon.
Sorry, I choose you!
And again, I'll refer back, but look at all the best sets across every era. The hits and the pulls are quite often the OGs, the fan favorite Pokemon. I mean, you could name probably 20, 30, 40 of them. The evolutions, the OGs like Blastoise, Charizard, Venusaur, cards like Mew and Mewtwo, Gengar, Rayquaza, Dragonite, like the second gen starters, Typhlosion, Feraligatr, etc. If something has fan favorite Pokemon inside it, it's gonna make it more popular. Why? Because I think it gives you that feeling of relatability. It's like, oh, this is the Pokemon that back in the game I always wanted to catch. This is a Pokemon that when I watched the TV show I hoped Ash caught. So it sort of gives you that connection or relatability. And it just gives you that nice feeling when you've either got the pack sealed or potentially for someone to buy off you in the future to open, that you could pull one of those fan favorite Pokemon. It just adds to the value. If you, again, and I don't want to keep speaking and harping on about it, but Evolving Skies, heaps of fan favorite Pokemon. XY Evolutions, heaps of fan favorite Pokemon. So looking forward, maybe a set like Scarlet and Violet 151 or Pokemon 151 in Japan with all these fan favorite Pokemon with great artwork could lead to some dollars moving north. And the fourth and final thing I've realized across the decades when it comes to Pokemon is they're always nice to keep sealed and display.
You can look at it in the crowd, and your friends can look at it and be like,
and I think the reason for that really ties back in with the last point, because if that set that's worth big dollars has fan favorite Pokemon inside it, generally they're displayed on the case. And you can just look back at the ETBs behind us and go, well, what's a nice looking ETB? You can go, well, the Champions Path ETB is really nice looking. It's got Charizard on it. The Vivid Voltage one's really nice. It's got Pikachu on it. The Evolving Skies ones are really nice because it's got the Evolutions on it. This is an absolute belter, the Celestial Storm one. You've got Rayquaza sitting on there. But then you go back to maybe something like a Burning Shadows, and it's got whatever it's called, Ultra Necrozma. Never really got into those Pokemon too much, but it just, is it nice to display? Not really. This set, Celestial Storm, is newer than Burning Shadows and worth 4 or 5 times as much. So another thing I've learnt is you've got to look for the sealed product and how nice it is to display. So I think with those 4 things in mind, it can really give you an insight in the future to making smart investment decisions when it comes to sealed Pokemon. So I just want to leave you with a final bit of advice and maybe a question using those 4 tips. So let's look at a set like Champions Path and Shining Fates, the first 2 holiday sets of the Sword and Shield era. So the main product is the Elite Trainer Box. Which is the better investment? Based off our 4 main formulas, so demand outweighing supply. Supply is dwindling faster on Champions Path than it is Shining Fates. Second one, the dollar of the hits inside it. Champions Path has 2 Charizard, albeit they're probably the only 2 hits. But really, Shining Fates only has 1 Charizard. That's the main hit from that set. So you should argue that Champions Path has better hits. The third being, does it have fan favourite Pokemon? Because Shining Fates relies so heavily on the Sword and Shield era set Pokemon, you should argue that probably Champions Path has slightly more favourite fan favourite Pokemon. And the fourth one being, what's nicer to display? Yeah, you've got 2 fan favourite Pokemons, Charizard, Eevee, and they're both sort of got that black and gold look to the box. They're actually both pretty nice display pieces, but in my mind, the Charizard VMAX is a heap better display. So when it comes to investing, you ask yourself, which one should I go for? Yes, Shining Fates is a little bit cheaper than Champions Path, but for my eyes, using those 4 tips, it's Champions Path every day of the week as an investment. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Hopefully this helps you with your Pokemon journey. If you've got any comments, questions, queries, please leave them down below. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, guys.